Now, I already did the 16-inch M4 Max MacBook Pro for 2024 with the standard display, right? So we got it with not the NANO-TEXTURE display because at the time, it couldn't get it available in time, so I went with the standard display. Now, I was very curious after all the reviews and everybody glowing about how that NANO-TEXTURE display fared, and it got generally positive reviews. So I wanted to see for myself, not only the M4 processor, not the M4 Pro or the M4 Max, which we looked at, but the M4 base model. And then I wanted to see that with the NANO-TEXTURE display. So I picked one up and we're gonna look at it here today. And we've already gone over the numbers on the M4 Max, but we can at least get a look at what the less expensive version, it's still expensive, but a less expensive version on this base model with the M4 on the MacBook Pro. Hey everybody, this is Andrew, and this is the MacBook Pro 14 with the M4 processor and the nano-textured glass. All new for as we round out 2024 and as we head into 2025 coming up. And before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency, full disclosure, I'm not being paid or being sponsored by Apple. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Apple is not getting copy approval. This unit was purchased with my own money. This is not a review unit from Apple. Now, pricing for the M4-based MacBook Pro comes in at $1599 and it goes up to $1999. I have the middle tier option here, $1799, which gets you 16 gigabytes of unified memory, a terabyte of storage, and I added the nano-texture display for an extra $150. For those that are interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. It's my affiliate link, and if you choose to buy through my link, I do get a small commission, which helps support the channel. So that is, of course, always appreciated. Again, for those that are interested, links will be in the description below. So as you can see here, we have the pull tabs right on the top and the bottom there, so we don't need to use our knife, but you have the M4 chip, 16 gigabytes of memory, terabyte of storage, and of course the nano-texture glass is the one I ordered this with. That is a $150 premium. So without further ado, let's get this out of the box. All right, so we have this one in space black, and coming from that X1 Carbon that I just reviewed, you could feel the heft on this one. This is heavy compared to that, way heavier. So that was the first thing that came to my mind. And I also did the silver in that 16-inch, and this is the space black. And we have the matching space black or black cable here. This is that USB Type-C to the MagSafe right there. And here's your 70-watt power charger with the flip-out prongs. You can get a higher wattage charger for some extra money. We have that one on the MacBook Pro 16, but that is that. So we're going to get a measurement of the weight and everything else, but this is exactly what you get in the box. And here we have the unit itself. Let's take it out of the wax paper here. And in that beautiful space black finish. Now, I had this on the 14-inch M3 Max that I did, but this is the standard version, and the build quality is excellent, once again, from Apple. Top of the line here, right? But you are paying premium for their materials. They use unibody aluminum, all the premium design that they put into their laptops. And I got to tell you, this is pretty nice. And one thing with Apple, you could always do this, of course, the one finger test. I do have a slippery table. And that will, of course, once you lift the lid, turn on the laptop. Now, there's one thing I did want to check out here, not the fact that we get stickers, but because this is the nano-texture display, you do get the cleaning cloth, the polishing cloth that they want you to use. Anyway, this has the Apple symbol on here, and this will help keep this nano-texture display clean. So pretty interesting. And of course, it's in this box right here. So this is what you're going to use to clean this special surface here. They don't want you using a regular type of cleaning cloth here, microfiber cloth. So just keep that in mind. This is going to have the 14-inch display. Now, I can tell you right off the bat, this is going to be less reflective than the standard display. Let me bring out the other display, the 16-inch standard display. Okay, so let's illustrate the difference between the nano-texture display, which is the one on the left here, and the standard. So I'm shining a light over here, and you can see Pretty, you can see the light, but it's dulled out. And then here you can see much more clearly that light will reflect on the display. So here, see the differences. And of course, that is pretty significant, I think, especially if you want to get work done and you don't want to have to be distracted by unnecessary glare and reflection. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. All right, there are some differences if you go with the M4 Pro and the M4 Max. One of them are going to be these Thunderbolt ports here. These are Thunderbolt 4 as opposed to Thunderbolt 5. You also get your MagSafe and you also get a headphone jack, all located on the left side. And on the right side, you get a full-size SD card reader, a third USB Type-C Thunderbolt 4 port, and you also get your HDMI 2.1. Now, this Thunderbolt 4 is different than the M3 version, which did not have Thunderbolt on that port. I believe you only got 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a difference here year over year as we get with this M4 version. Okay, let's get a measurement of the weight with just the unit alone, 1.536 kilograms or 3 pounds, 6.2 ounces. Let's put it back into kilograms. And with the power charger and the power cord, you're looking at 1.761 kilograms, and that is 3 pounds, 14.1 ounces. That's a lot heavier, by the way, than the X1 Carbon, for those wondering. But you are getting more robust performance out of this. There's no doubt about it. Now, when it comes to user upgradability, bad news once again from Apple. You cannot upgrade anything here, not even the SSD storage, which you can on a lot of the Windows counterparts that we look at here on the channel. And to make matters worse, to go for the upgrades from Apple, they do charge you a heavy premium to do those. So not a good overall picture when it comes to serviceability and user upgradability. All right, let's talk about the display. One of the main reasons I picked this one up is to get that NANO-TEXTURE option, which of course you can order from Apple. 14.2-inch Liquid Retina XDR display. It's a mini LED display. It has a resolution of 3024 by 1964. 120 hertz ProMotion, 120 hertz refresh rate is what they're trying to tell you. 16:10 aspect ratio. Now, the brightness is very good here. I measured 622 nits SDR indoors. You can peak a sustained brightness up to 1,000 nits, and it can go up to 1,600 nits for peak HDR overall. SDR up to 1,000 nits outdoors. So excellent in terms of that brightness. Now, for that, you do have to put it on the auto brightness to get to the maximum brightness. So just keep that in mind. Watching high dynamic range movies on this has been excellent. Editing on this has been great because the color accuracy, the coverage of the color gamut has all been there. Excellent. Deep blacks, white points are good. Contrast is excellent. And it does have PWM like you do get on a OLED display, but not quite as bad. So for those that are sensitive to PWM, I did want to point that out. Not a big issue on this one. I would say overall it's an excellent display, but I think the OLED displays are a little bit more sharper, a little bit more vibrant. So I really do prefer that. But this is next best as far as I'm concerned. So it's an excellent display. A couple of things to note. There is no touch option, of course. They leave that for the iPad line. Now, looking at it next to the standard display, one of the biggest things I was really worried about going into this was the vibrancy that you'd lose going with that NANO-TEXTURE display. Well, I'm happy to report that's not really much of an issue. Yes, the standard display with its glass on it is definitely a little bit more vibrant, but not much. And I definitely would take the glare and reflection reduction that you get on this NANO-TEXTURE option any day of the week. Now, it is, of course, $150 extra, but I think it's worth it, especially for those that are doing productivity work, video editing. Say you edit near an open window or there's a lot of sunlight coming in, definitely the reflections of the glare and all that is reduced, and it's definitely worth it in my opinion. But of course, everybody's use case is a little bit different and it is purely subjective, but I definitely think that the reduction in the glare and the reflection is worth it in my opinion. So this is the camera on the M4 MacBook Pro, the 14-inch here for 2024 as we head into 2025. Now, I already did the 16-inch. What do you think about this FaceTime camera? You're looking at 1080p. Of course, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Not an IR camera, no face recognition, no Face ID like you get on an iPhone or on a Windows laptop that does have an IR camera. This, of course, relies on the Touch ID, the fingerprint scanner, which is located in the power button. So let me know what you think about all of this in the comments section below. All right, let's talk about this M4 as opposed to the M4 Pro and the M4 Max we already looked at. I looked at the M4 Pro on the Mac Mini, and I looked at the M4 Max on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Now, this M4 has 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU. I went with the one with a terabyte of storage and the 16 gigabytes of unified memory. That's the middle tier, $1799. I added another $150 for that NANO-TEXTURE option, so that is close to $2,000 is what I paid. I did trade in my M1 Pro MacBook Pro, and I got, I think, about $750 or so. I'll have to double check that, but it did help a little bit in terms of the price. That being said, single core performance and Geekbench is excellent. Multi-core is excellent, especially when you compare it to others in the category. But when you compare it to the M4 Pro, the M4 Max, don't expect it to do quite as well, especially when it comes to the GPU performance, things in video editing and stuff like that. I ran the DaVinci Resolve Fusion benchmark, and as you can see, the results were quite interesting here. Obviously not quite as good as the M4 Pro I saw on the Mac Mini or the M4 Max on the 16-inch variant of the MacBook Pro. That's to be expected. So if you're going to do any kind of high-end creative work or prosumer work, I would definitely go with the MacBook Pro with the M4 Pro or the M4 Max if you need that extra horsepower when it comes to graphics. But I think most people, for everyday use, Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, going with this base model M4, saving a few bucks in the process is definitely worth it. Again, it just depends on what your use case scenario is. Now, gaming is doable on this, but I would go with the M4 Pro or the M4 Max, and the titles are not going to be quite as good as the Windows titles. There are just not as many, so just keep that in mind. Gaming has improved with some of the titles coming. Later in 2025, we're hearing some good ones coming, but I would say stick with the Windows side of things if you're serious about gaming. Now, fan noise is pretty much non-existent for the most part. 95 to 97, 98% of the things you're going to do with this. Now, I did notice the fans kick in when I did push it under heavy load when I ran the Fusion Bench DaVinci Resolve benchmark, and that's to be expected because you're pushing all the cores and everything working, GPU, CPU, everything's going 100% plus. So definitely we'll hear the noise there, and of course, it didn't get overly loud when they did kick in, but again, 95% of the time, this is a silent laptop. Now, as far as the surface temperatures, when you're pushing this under heavy load, it stayed relatively cool throughout. So they do an excellent job when it comes to the fan noise and when it comes to the thermals. Now, when it comes to battery life, pretty phenomenal once again. Here, we're looking at a 72.6 watt-hour battery. It did over 20 hours in the video playback test. It did a mixed usage test, over 16 hours in that test. And when it comes to the maximum load test, you're looking at over 7+ hours. So that is pretty phenomenal overall. Real-world usage, definitely all-day battery, what we're getting here on this 14-inch powerhouse when it comes to battery life. Now, as I mentioned many times in other videos and in that 16-inch review that I did on the MacBook Pro recently, I'm not a big fan of these keyboards. They do collect a lot of grease, and the tactility and the overall feedback are good, but not great. I definitely prefer the ThinkPad keyboards and definitely the Lenovo keyboards, the HP keyboards as well, and even some of the Dell keyboards over this one. I'm just not quite as accurate. Maybe it's me, but I just don't type quite as fast and as accurate on this one as I do, say, on that ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 13 that I did. That was much, much better in my opinion. So if you're going to do productivity work, I definitely prefer those keyboards over this one. That being said, it's definitely a good keyboard overall, and I think it definitely has one of the best, if not the best, haptic touchpad in the business. It really sets the standard in terms of the haptic feedback, the overall gestures. Everything works as you'd expect, and it works really, really well. Apple does the best touchpads in the business. I don't think there's any question about it, although Stencil has been making a lot of gains and probably is the best, if not the best, on the Windows side of things. But overall, the Apple touchpads here on this MacBook Pro is excellent, and really do recommend using these because they are the best in the business. All right, there's a 6-speaker sound system, the best in the business. Now, I'm going to compare it to the 16-inch, which I think is the best. But of course, the 14-inch, you can't expect it to be quite as good as the 16-inch. The chassis is just not as big as it, of course, but it is excellent for a 14-inch laptop. Still better than probably 99% of the Windows laptops out there, if not all of them. Of course, let's give it a listen. You let me know what you think in the comment section below. All right, let's wrap it all up. And of course, like its 16-inch bigger sibling, this one is an excellent choice as we head into 2025. You're looking at an excellent 14.2-inch mini LED display, the 120 hertz. It's really good for content creation, especially for basic stuff. But I think if you need the more complicated stuff, more prosumer type of editing, you want to definitely go with the M4 Pro or, of course, the M4 Max. Excellent single multi-core performance for everyday use, Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, watching movies. Excellent all-day battery life with this, of course, is going to be very good for longevity. NANO-TEXTURE display option is great for those that need less glare, less reflection, although it is $150. Sharp-looking webcam, and it has best-in-class speakers. Those are the pros. The negatives here, no user upgradeability. You can't upgrade the SSD like you can on some Windows counterparts. No USB-A port, and no really relatively inexpensive upgrades here. You're looking at very expensive upgrades when time of checkout. No tandem OLED option, which would have been great. At least hopefully next year we'll see something with the OLED display. No Face ID, no touchscreen option. That's the iPad Pro's realm. And then, of course, the NANO-TEXTURE option is $150 premiums. Those are the negatives. But I would say overall, as we head into 2025, the M4 MacBook Pro is a step up over the MacBook Air because you're getting the better display. To me, that's better. And I think the port selection is a little bit better here. So definitely would go with that. And of course, you do get the two fans when you do need the cooling, but it's been 99% of the time no fan noise. It's been pretty silent, so pretty good in that regard. I highly recommend the M4 MacBook Pro as we head into 2025.